大家好，欢迎来到这期视频。今天呢，我们来聊巴伦资本的罗恩·巴伦在最新一期播客中关于他自己投资 SpaceX 的一些深度的分享。他自己把 SpaceX 视为一生最难遇的投资机会。在这期播客中，他详细解释了自己为什么对 SpaceX 长期看好。按照老规矩，我会把他这期的分享最核心的几个观点用自己的理解给大家做拆解，辅助大家思考。那么我们就话不多说，直接开始。第一个，罗恩·巴伦聊到的是他跟马斯克的渊源以及早期投资的一些事情。他的原话是：我从2010年认识马斯克，当时他在准备特斯拉上市，我们聊了几个小时，我觉得他很聪明，但当时不太相信他能成功。不过我跟他一直保持着联系，直到2014年到2016年，我改变了想法，开始投资特斯拉，后来又多次投资了 SpaceX。 解读一下，其实罗恩·巴伦跟马斯克的关系或者是他们的认识时间相对来说确实已经比较久了，从2010年开始，当时特斯拉正在上市，就已经开始接触马斯克，并且呢开始关注马斯克。一开始他自己也是有怀疑的态度的，就是通过持续的观察和接触，进一步呢看好甚至是锁定马斯克本人及他的公司。目前呢他表述是他已经重仓特斯拉和 SpaceX， 这体现了一个顶级的投资人这种长期对项目的跟踪，还有持续的对创始人及创始人公司的深度研究的这种投资的方法。更多的说的是他在一级市场跟特斯拉和马斯克的这种关系的梳理。总之呢，跟二级市场追热点不太同。他在一级市场上呢，第一有一个好的投资思维，第二呢，他确实也遇到了马斯克这样的一个好的项目或者是好的创业者。举一个大家可以反向思考的例子，假如说你是罗恩·巴伦，在2010年你认识了一个看起来超级疯狂的年轻创业者，一开始你觉得他有点不太靠谱，但是呢，凭借着你的观察或者你的经验，你发现他真的有可能在做靠谱的事儿，甚至这个事儿呢可能会改变世界。这个时候，作为一级市场的投资人，你要有勇气去压住，甚至是重仓压住。这个呢就是罗恩·巴伦跟马斯克的初始故事。OK， 我们继续聊。第二点，罗恩·巴伦聊到的是 SpaceX 是巴伦资本最成功的投资之一。罗恩·巴伦说，我们在特斯拉上赚了大约70-80亿美金，在 SpaceX 上呢也已经赚了120到130亿美金。我们认为 SpaceX 未来会成为地球上最大最赚钱的公司。解读一下，目前 SpaceX 呢正在 IPO 的前夜，巴伦资本和罗恩·巴伦本人在 SpaceX 上呢都有重仓，而且 SpaceX 如果上市，确实会成为巴伦资本甚至罗恩·巴伦本人最成功的投资之一，带来了巨额的回报。总之呢，这种长期一级市场的价值兑现，确实对投资人来说是一种迷幻且振奋人心的事儿。这个也就是一级市场上长期持有优质成长公司的巨大的复利效应，这种魅力吧。要知道 SpaceX 从最早期到现在的 IPO， 这种就是典型的高回报的一级市场案例。接下来罗恩·巴伦聊到的是 SpaceX 具有长期的潜力。罗恩·巴伦说， SpaceX 的目标是让人类成为多星球物种，我们相信它未来估值可能会达到10万亿、20万亿甚至30万亿。解读一下，罗恩·巴伦对 SpaceX 的长期的愿景老实说极其乐观。他认为它不仅仅是一家火箭公司，更是人类太空时代的基石。这属于典型的星辰大海的叙事。如果 SpaceX 成功实现星舰的量产和星链全球的覆盖，它的商业价值确实要比现在要高得多得多。就像当年投资亚马逊的那些人，大家刚开始也只看到它是一个卖书的网站，现在亚马逊成了全球电商和云服务的巨头，甚至在太空领域也有可能跟 SpaceX 一较上下。所以 SpaceX 的潜力可能远比现在这个视角要大得多，这也是罗恩·巴伦想表达的意思。第四个，罗恩·巴伦聊到的是 SpaceX IPO 的意义。罗恩·巴伦说， SpaceX 即将 IPO， 我们认为这是历史性的投资机会的开始，而不是结束。解释一下， 罗恩·巴伦强调 SpaceX 的 IPO 并不是一个高点，而是长期投资的起点。这一点呢，其实对于投资人来说，大家呢要有两方面的思考。首先，如果您更看好马斯克和 SpaceX 的星辰大海，那么这次 IPO 确实是一个开始。但是如果只是进行财务投资，那么 IPO 上市的时候，任何价格可能都存在一些短期的风险。所以长期目标和短期的财务，这个呢是需要分开来看的。打个比方吧，就像特斯拉在上市的时候，可能很多人也觉得估值很高了，甚至这个时候投资可能已经也晚了。但是后来的事情想必大家也都看到了，特斯拉的涨幅远超预期。那么作为马斯克亲儿子的 SpaceX 是否会重复同样的故事，就只能交给时间去验证了。OK， 我们继续。罗恩·巴伦接着聊到的是巴伦资本的投资哲学。罗恩·巴伦说，我们坚持长期投资，寻找能改变世界的公司，并持有很长的时间。这里解读一下巴伦资本的投资哲学。罗恩·巴伦呢总结是，首先找到能够改变世界的公司或者标的，并且长期持有，这是两个关联的且必须同时存在的。首先，如果你看好一个成长股或者是成长型的企业，那么就同时要有长期持有的这样的一个策略，通过时间的复利实现巨大的回报。这些也是一级市场很多知名投资机构的普遍的一个策略。就像巴菲特长期持有可口可乐一样，巴伦资本长期持有的是特斯拉和 SpaceX， 并且罗恩·巴伦本人作为个人投资者的角色，他也长期持有特斯拉超过了10年，并且个人也一股没有卖掉，享受了特斯拉最早期和最中长期的超级指数的回报。这次 SpaceX 上市，巴伦资本大概率也会像持有特斯拉一样长期持有 SpaceX。 第六个，罗恩·巴伦表达了对伊隆·马斯克和 SpaceX 团队的信心。他的原话是，伊隆和 SpaceX 团队的执行能力极强，他们的目标是人类成为多星球物种。解读一下，罗恩·巴伦对马斯克和马斯克的 SpaceX 团队的执行力高度认可，这也是一级投资人对团队和公司创始人的一个最基础的能力，也就是识人和识别团队。顶级创业者和团队是任何一级市场投资成功的关键因素之一。一级市场投资的魅力就是能够找到超级优秀的创始人和团队，并且呢长期持有，因为优秀的创始人和团队总能够把不可能变成可能，而马斯克就是罗恩·巴伦最认可的创始人。最后，罗恩·巴伦聊到的是 SpaceX 是终身的投资机会。罗恩·巴伦总结说， SpaceX 是我一生中最伟大的投资机会之一，我们会长期持有。解读一下，罗恩·巴伦把 SpaceX 视为一生难得的投资机会，并且他承诺会长期持有。对于罗恩·巴伦和他旗下的巴伦资本来说，也许 SpaceX 就是一个可以持续开采几十年的金矿，他们肯定不会只挖一点就离开，而是会长期持有，并且持续享受这种收益。 OK， 上面就是罗恩·巴伦关于 SpaceX 的最新的播客的一些他的核心观点的拆解和我个人理解的解读。视频结尾是调整后的原声音频和中文字幕翻译，感兴趣的朋友可以自行再看。
Which were in the chemical art, that I issued the patents on the nose cones, the coatings that used the nose cone that prevented nose cones from burning up in space when they were coming back to our planet. Starting in 1969, the summer of 1969, moved to New York. I was living in one of my friend's basements. I was in debt. I didn't have good enough credit to get a telephone. I couldn't get a telephone. In the 1970s, I was an analyst. I sold research for commissions to hedge funds, mutual funds, wealthy families who paid me commissions. In 1982, started Baron Capital. We had 10 million under management. It all come from one of my clients in 1976 or 77. It was George Soros. He had a bad year, and Quantum said, why don't you give some money to other people instead of just you to manage for you? And he gave 6 people $5 million apiece. I was one of them, favorite outside analyst who didn't work for him. And my $5 million grew to $10 million in 1982. We started 10 million under management with an M. 1992, 100 million. As of last night, 63 billion. And we've made our clients 60 wanted $62 billion from the $100 million that we had under management in 1992. And of those assets, when I was in debt before, roughly 11 or 12% of the assets that we manage belong to me and my family. And so the $60 billion of profits that we've earned for our clients, roughly $20 billion has come from Elon companies, about $7.8 or $7.9 billion from investing in Tesla, and about $12 or $13 billion so far from investing in SpaceX. So I met Elon in 2010 when he was bringing Tesla public. We spoke for a couple hours, and I thought it would be unlikely he'd be successful, but thought he was a brilliant guy and fun to talk to. So I kept speaking to him over the next 4 years. And between 2014 and 2016, I came to the conclusion I was wrong. $12 billion, I think we're going to make somewhere, I think we're going to make from the time it goes public and the IPO is priced for $1.5 trillion or $1.75 trillion or $2 trillion, that kind of a range. I think that over the following 10 or 15 years, we're going to make that company, which is going to be valued initially for less than $2 trillion, I think, we think, is going to be worth $10 trillion, $20 trillion, or $30 trillion. People in the company believe that I'm lowballing it, but that's what I think. And we think that this is going to become, SpaceX will become the largest, most profitable company on the planet. I was recently been on CNBC, and I was talking to the head of Goldman. I said, Ron, you should look back in 1604. And in 1604, there was a West Indies trading company, and they had the exclusive rights for 22 years to get to trade spices and fabrics between Europe and the Middle East, the Far East rather. And and then they needed to raise money. So they went to the people who lived in Holland, and they said, we will invent the limited liability corporation. If you give us money to buy these boats, then the most you could lose is how much you put up. You can't lose your house, you can't lose your family, you can't lose anything. All you can lose is what you put up. So that was one big innovation. Innovation number two was that they had made a trading market for those securities that people had been enticed to purchase. And because of that, and they raised the money and they built the boats and they traded for 22 years. And because of that exclusive right that they had to trade with a valuable commodity, they became the most powerful, wealthiest company on the planet, the number one company on the planet. And Dan said, that's sort of like in his career, and he's a lot younger than I am. So he has never seen anything like this before, where SpaceX has the ability to get to space and lead the space economy, and economy is going to be SpaceX. So how do we come up with evaluations? And so there are several pockets, several opportunities that SpaceX has. They all come about because this company has been able to launch a rocket and bring it back to Earth again and reuse it over and over and over again. And so they've done this about 600 times since 2000. When we started to invest in 2017, they hadn't done this yet. But in this past, since then, they've done it 600 times. Last year, they did it 165 times. And we think they're going to do it thousands of times a year, thousands. And they right now have 4 launch pads. The culture that he has is everything has to be done faster, better, cheaper. That's him. Faster, better, cheaper. We talked to people, Isha and I were speaking to one of the executives for X in Memphis a few weeks ago. And this person was the CFO of that business. And I said, so what are you doing? He says, well, what we're doing here is that we're all getting ready because Elon's coming tonight. Coming tonight? He said, yeah, he's going to come here at midnight and he's going to meet with hundreds of engineers. What does he do at nighttime with hundreds of engineers? Well, we buy a lot of things at this facility. And what he wants to make sure of is that we spend money appropriately. We don't overspend. In fact, when he gave a recent presentation, he spoke about how what he wants to do is give engineers a little bit less than they need to accomplish their goals. So they're very conscious about how much to spend. So he says, what do you do? First thing he comes, he says, show me the purchase orders of everyone. Show me purchase orders. I said, purchase orders? He said, yeah, because someone had just fallen off a platform and hurt themselves in this plant a week or two ago. And so we were installing railings. So he said, show me the pictures. So he showed him pictures, and there's 2 railings going around. And he says, why do you need a second level of railing? I said, well, I guess we don't, Elon, you're right. And then they say, well, why does Elon says, well, why do you need this on all of the different platforms, all the different heights? If someone falls off a low platform, they're not going to hurt themselves. And he says, yeah, you're right. I guess we don't have to do it. But the whole idea of his is that he wants the culture. Everything sooner or later gets to be a commodity. So he wants to be the low-cost provider of every service that he's invested in and continue to innovate and make things better and better, faster and faster. That's his whole idea. No one else does this. And so when you're dealing with the government, what the government does is they put out contracts which are cost plus, and therefore the providers are incented to take longer and cost more. And what Elon does, he's the only one who bids for contracts fixed price. He says, it's my risk, and I'll take it. And he does it for half price of what others are doing it and gets it better. And other guys, stuff doesn't work. And when he does it, it does work. Anyway, so the bottom line is he has this culture that's installed that enables him to compete better than other people. So what enables him right now, these businesses that he has presently, are that he can reuse rockets over and over again. So for other people to get to space, it costs them $150 million. Right now, it's costing us tens of millions of dollars. It's about to cost us $5 million or $3 million. So number one, we get to space cheaper. So because of that now, last year it had 9 million customers. This year it'll have 15 million customers. We think that in 10 years, it's going to have 300 million customers, plus the enterprises, plus the government. What's that going to do? We think it'll do about $1 trillion of annual revenues and $700 or $800 billion of EBITDA, and be worth about $14 trillion. So basically the whole company is coming out for less than $2 trillion. Starlink alone, we think in 10 or 12 or 15 years will be worth $14 trillion. That's number one. And that's only beginning to penetration. There's 8 billion people on the planet, 5 billion have internet, it's spotty, and 3 billion have internet, don't have internet at all. So it's a huge market, and to get to the numbers that we're describing is 300 million customers. That's business number one. Business number two is the fact that data centers are quite controversial now, and the issue that people have is that when they come up in their community, their electricity bills go up. So the governor candidate in New Jersey, she won because she said we have to stop these data centers from going up, and your electricity bills are going up. We have to stop them. And her roommate, when she was in Congress, ran for Virginia governor, and she had the same campaign. They both got elected. And so everywhere you go in this country now is costing more to build data centers, cost $40 or $50 billion to build a data center. It takes 3 or 4 or 5 years. You can't get a fixed price contract. And when you get it built, if you get the permits, if you get the people, if you get the powered land, then you get campaigning against you. So what we have here is ability, and it's also very expensive to cool it with water, and also very expensive to run it with electricity. So what we're going to do, and what Bezos says he's going to do ultimately, and what Gemini, which is Google, wants to do, and what Anthropic wants to do, then all of a sudden you're going to have all these companies that don't have compute. So Anthropic, they've just gone from having a business that in December, I'll try to shorten it up a little bit here, but they were doing $9 billion of annualized revenues in December. They're now doing $45 or $50 billion. It's a 5-year-old company. They're about to go public with a valuation of $800 or $900 billion. We have the same thing as them called Grok. That's inside of X, which has been acquired by Tesla. So basically, we have the same thing, but they've been better at us for coding, and we have a pipe going in that's similar, and and a faucet coming out that's similar. And the magic box, they've done better than we have in coding. We got to catch them. And Elon doesn't regard anything short of being as good or better than anyone else as a victor. He regards if I'm not number one, I lost. And so where we are right now is that we started 3 years later, but we think that, and he thinks that the barrier to these businesses, these large language models, is the fact that you don't have the barrier compute. And so just to show how important that is, Anthropic has come to us, Anthropic with these tremendous growth opportunities, and saying, look, I can't meet my customers' demands because I don't have enough compute. Can I rent some of your compute? So they go to us and they say, we'd like to rent your compute in Memphis. And Elon says, well, I can give it to you short term. I can't do it long term right now. And they've agreed, according to prospectus, to rent it for $1.25 billion per month. $1.25 billion a month, which is $15 billion annualized. And what they're renting, we guess, Ishay and I, yes, and our analysts, we think that might have cost them $15 or $20 billion, and they're renting it for $15 billion a year. And because the other people are so desperate for compute. Google wants to rent it, Anthropic wants to rent it, everyone wants to rent our compute. They've focused on coding. We will be equal to them in coding, or hopefully better, before the next 4 or 5 months. So second business now is data centers in space. No cooling needed because we got space. No electricity needed because we got the sun. And so it's a lower cost to operate. And TSMC, and we go, I say we a lot in companies that we invest in, because I think of them as we're partners. We are investors in their business, and they allow us to invest and take part. They do all the hard work. All we do is put money in, and they spend it, and they make these incredible returns. So what we're thinking about is that we go to TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor, and we say we need, for our robo-cars for Tesla, and for our data centers in space, and for our Optimus robots at Tesla, we need 50 times as many chips as the whole world makes presently. 50 times. So Taiwan Semiconductor says, well, that's really nice, Elon, but we can't take that kind of risk. We got a really cool business now. We can't satisfy your demand. And they go to Samsung, same thing. So he says, okay, we're going to do it ourselves. And we're great at manufacturing things, and we can do this. And so we're going to spend, and we partner up with Intel for some technology expertise, but we have our own ideas about how to make stuff. And so we think we're going to be able, when we buy things from NVIDIA, what NVIDIA is making is an 80% profit margin on the products that they're selling. And we only use maybe 6% of the content of a chip, because NVIDIA makes these chips for everyone and for all different purposes. We only need a fraction of what that chip is being made for. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make chips, instead of making them do everything, we're going to make them just do a couple things. And when they just do a couple things, we think we can reduce the cost of the chips that we're buying by 70, 80, 90%. But it's not just the fact that we're making them cheaper. It's the fact that if we don't get enough chips, we can't grow as fast as we want. So chip manufacturing for ourselves, that's the next thing we're doing. Then the next thing we're doing is Grok. You've just been reading about Anthropic, as I just mentioned. So we question everything. We invest in people. We own things for long term. We think anything's possible, but it's everything takes time. And so what we're thinking about is that over the long term, these businesses that he's starting are going to be, what Grok is that we're going in enterprise. What they do is they're saying, okay, we're going to take the job of 1 million knowledge workers. And those 1 million knowledge workers, we are going to study them and understand how they move and how they use compute. And we're going to duplicate those jobs. And instead of someone making $20 or $25 an hour, we're going to be able to do it for 25 cents an hour for chips. That's what's happening. And so what are those other people going to do? I promise you there will be lots and lots of jobs. And they're not going to be doing the same exact thing as they're doing now, but they're going to be, there's never been a technological innovation in the world where you haven't seen a huge increase in jobs. there was an interview with Jeff Bezos on, I think it was 60 Minutes or somewhere the last few days. Really, I guess it was maybe a CNBC, where it was a great interview, and he's talking about the jobs that are going to be created by this technology. So those are some of the businesses that this fertile mind has considered and thought about, and going to bring to us and change our lives and change your lives. And so that's who we're investing in. And I'm so excited about SpaceX. So in the investments that we have right now, of the $63 billion, roughly $15 billion of that is invested in SpaceX. And of that $15 billion, that's value.